We turn now to a man who was right when no one listened. Now a lot of people are saying what he said. 6 months before President Bush ordered the invasion of Iraq, Congressman Ron Paul, an independent Republican of Texas, took to the floor of the House of Representatives to sound a warning.
I rise to urge the Congress to think twice before thrusting this nation into a war without merit, one fraught with danger of escalating into something no American will be pleased with.
Ron Paul asked the press and his colleagues in Congress to consider a list of 35 questions to be answered before troops were sent to Iraq. But the consensus of conformity in Washington between official sources and the establishment press was so suffocating, mavericks like Ron Paul didn't get a hearing. Congressman Paul is indeed one quirky maverick. He practiced obstetrics and gynecology before entering politics. He defends medical marijuana, doesn't like a lot of things about government, won't allow his children to accept federal student loans, and refuses to take his congressional pension or payments from Medicare. He ran for president in 1988 as the candidate for the Libertarian Party, a party small in number but strong on principle. It looks skeptically at government. He will address the Libertarian Convention tomorrow morning in Atlanta. But right now he joins us from his home in the 14th District of Texas on the Gulf Coast. Welcome, Congressman Paul, back to Now.
Thank you, Bill. Good to be with you.
In that speech you made on the floor of the House, you were almost prophetic in what you said. You were right. You were not listened to. Do you think people like you are being listened to now?
Not a whole lot. I think they listen, but they very interestingly enough ignore it. I think silence is the best treatment for me as far as they're concerned. If they criticized, I think I would get more attention, and they certainly aren't going to compliment it. But, you know, one-on-one, it's interesting what happens. The other day, there was a member sitting next to me on the International Relations Committee. He leaned over to me, he says, Ron, he says, do you ever think about sending out a press release and saying, I told you so? I said, no, not really. Really, if there's any I told you so attitude, I think it should come from somebody else. I think I have to go from where we are now and make my best judgment on what we ought to do.
What should we do?
Well, I think we should leave, and I think we should leave as quickly as possible. And let the Iraqis take over. My suggestion is this, that it's an artificial country. It was created by Westerners. It's not going to be held together politically very easily. And therefore, I would make a suggestion as we were leaving. This is really 3 countries. Do a cantonization of it, or maybe even adapt some of the principles of our early republic. Have 3 independent states. If they want to be loosely knit and come together, let that happen. But say, here are the likely boundaries. And we have 3 countries there. We have a Kurdish land, we have a Shiite, and a Sunni land. And we're suggesting you honor this and commit to this, and we're leaving. And I think if they knew that and we started packing up, I think there would more likely have peace there than there would be if we continue to do what we're doing.
Most people I've talked to say that without an American military presence in Iraq, the country will almost certainly fall into civil war with bloody conflict that could bring the rest of the region in. What if they're right?
Well, you know, I guess it's always possible. There's no way to say there will be none. But I think that's exactly what my concern has always been, is that if we go over there and disrupt that area and pick sides and be involved, which we've been for years, literally since we got rid of Mossadegh in Iran, you know, that has led to many problems, and that still is festering. The fact that we were an ally of Iraq in the war against Iran is another festering sore there. So, yes, I think our interference does exactly what we say we're there to prevent. There is that possibility, but I think it would be a lot less. And besides, I'm never comfortable with assuming we have this moral authority to do what we're trying to do, nor do we have the money. I mean, this country's nearly broke. I mean, we're running a national debt increase of $700 billion a year, so can we afford this $200 billion that we're spending over there? So there are practical reasons against it, and there is the risk that there would be chaos over there. But isn't there no more chaos there now? I mean, there are a lot more people have been killed in the last 15 months than the prior 15 months.
But the president said in his speech on Monday night that if we fail to build a a stable democracy in Iraq. It will invite an unprecedented terrorist victory. It will lead to more violence, and it will threaten American security. You may have been right last year. You were right last year, but now is now. Aren't we trapped there?
I guess a lot of people would think so, but do you recall the so-called entrapment in Vietnam? I mean, we couldn't leave, and what did we do? We always escalated. And so those are the choices, leaving or escalating, because most of the good military people now are very concerned that we don't have enough troops. Some say we need to double or triple the troops if we really want to police that area. So it's escalation or leave. And history shows, I think one of the things that those who were so energetic about promoting this war failed to understand the history of the area. It just doesn't work that Westerners can occupy that territory. And the idea that even the British were gung-ho over this war means that they have short memories as well. So I just don't see how this policy of persistence at this level will bring peace and stability. And I think the national security issue is critical. And that was one of the reasons I voted against the war, is I did not believe our national security was threatened. And I don't think it's threatened now. And I think we have shown that they couldn't have done anything to even their neighbors. So the idea that if we're not there promoting democracy, I mean, we've been trying to promote democracy around the world since Woodrow Wilson sort of started this whole thing, make the world safe for democracy. And it doesn't work. You only promote good values by setting good examples. So this idea that we can force things on people doesn't work. We tried it militarily in Vietnam. We walked away after losing the war, and now we're friends with Vietnam. We trade with them. They're more westernized and capitalized than they've been if we'd have stayed.